Welcome to the Amador Fire C.A.N report, your source for real stories, real service, and real impact across Amador County. From the vineyards in the valley to the snow-capped Sierras, our district serves over 500 square miles with 9 stations and putting 7 engines on the road every single day, with the support of over 30 dedicated volunteers. I'm your host, Kayla Dale, and welcome to Season 2.
I think your left hand would be.
Need more water? All right. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1.
Start over. That's terrible. Start over. I wasn't ready. I'm ready now. Go ahead.
We're going to put the bloopers on this one, too.
Amador Fire sent us these videos of the home on fire there. The residential structure response. Shakridge Road had a car.
County tonight, firefighters are on the scene of a wine facility fire, and you can see the large flames.
111 Station, Highway 88.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Amador Fire C.A.N report. And for this episode, Chief Withrow and I thought we would sit down to do a year in review over 2025 and just kind of reflect on successes, what we could change, some wins, and the direction that we're going for 2026. So to start this episode, Chief Withrow, I just thought I would ask, by diving right into it, if you could describe the department as a whole for 2025, what would you say?
I'd say we're very eager, and I think that's continuing into 2026. I think that eagerness is not limited in any one area. There's a lot of areas I think our members are hungry for. They're always hungry for new and innovative training. I think, our operational readiness is always at the top of the list. So I would sum it up by saying we're a very eager organization.
Yeah, and when we were reflecting, we were recently filming, or editing, I should say, our year in review video, and just going over the call types that we've had for years, but it really is a reminder of the different types of calls we have, the variety of calls, and that's something that you talk about all the time, but it's always nice to just kind of reflect on those. We are, a smaller district, but we run some great calls. Yeah,
I would say the diversity, the operational diversity of our fire district is something really special. You can be in the same day, you could be running a serious traffic accident in the high country and a couple feet of snow, and then down on the valley floor, dealing with some other emergency in completely different weather where it's dry and, looks like a normal sunny day. And I think that type of diversity and the challenges that come with that are what's so exciting about Amador Fire.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would say for this year we really nailed down for a full year is implementing our updated SOGs.
Yeah.
And with that, do you have a defining moment throughout 2025 or a call where just everything that we've practiced, we've trained, we've worked on just kind of all came together?
Yeah, I don't like to call out one specific incident, but I can say overall, my perspective on an incident is much different than that of an engine company or even a battalion chief sometimes, because some of the times when I'm responding to an incident, I'm just there to back up, whether it be the on-duty battalion chief or just to be there supporting you and our public information efforts. So sometimes I get to be a little bit of a fly on the wall. I may not be wrapped up in the emergencies, so to speak. And I'll just tell you, from my perspective, I've seen a lot of improvement, a lot of changes. That's not to say people weren't doing really good things in the past, because they were. But I think we've really started to solidify our operation and starting to standardize that. When you listen to our companies transmit their report on conditions, they're very much standardized. Our initial actions are very much standardized. And I think, the overall philosophy that we want water flowing on the fire in 2 minutes or less, I think that's starting to take hold. Of course, there's some exceptions to that if we have a rescue on a structure fire or some other immediate threat that we need to deal with. Certainly those, life safety is always the priority of the public being number one. And then, of course, our members being right in line with that. So, I think the changes I have seen is just the standardization, much more efficient. The operation is much more efficient on those, I don't want to say everyday fires, but on the fires that we've had, the traffic accidents we've had, that sort of thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And we kind of dove right into speaking operationally, but one of the things I'd like to talk about in this podcast is the branding, the culture, and the team that we've discussed for months now, not just to the public, but also to our own members of the district. And so I think this is a good opportunity to kind of discuss what those are, each topic wise, and then how we're building onto that in 2026.
Yeah, great question. So, with respect to our branding, like we always say, it's much more than just name recognition. I think when you hear the term branding, whether it be in the private business world or in government, you think of things like, well, recognizing a logo or knowing who somebody is, and that's certainly part of branding. But the bigger piece, at least in my opinion, is the reputation that comes along with that brand. How do people feel when they hear Amador Fire? Do they think, oh, those guys are a bunch of jokers, or do they think, hey, that's my fire department and they do a great job. They care about their community. And I think we've come a long ways in that in 2025. And of course, I credit you as our PIO for spearheading that. But I also give huge kudos to our crews, our stations, our career staff, our volunteers, et cetera. On a regular basis, I get compliments about how one of our members has handled a situation or taken care of somebody. And that's what branding's all about, is not just name recognition or getting our logo out there, but what is our reputation? And we want that to be a stellar reputation. Are we going to mess up sometimes? Certainly we are. We're going to own those mistakes and we're going to fix them so we don't repeat them in the future. But I think branding has taken hold. I'm very, very proud of our progress on that. And I don't want to let off the gas. I want to keep going, keep working on that. In our newsletter that comes out every month, I mentioned culture being one of the most challenging parts of that vision with respect to changing our culture. But I think we're doing that, and I've seen some marked changes in just how our stations are operating, how our crews are interacting with each other and other agencies and community members, etc. So I feel very positive about our culture, if you will. Teams where it's a challenge for us. I think right now, as we speak, our firefighter panel is on day 3 of firefighter interviews. Because of us staffing a new fire station and 2 vacancies, we're going to be hiring upwards of 5 new firefighters into the district. And this is our chance to get that right. And one of the things I was just talking to the panel about is, hey, remember, the people you select, we want to make sure they're going to be a good fit for our team. Are they putting public service number one? Service above self. Do they fit the Amador Fire culture? Are they going to be an asset to it? Is it somebody we can work with and somebody that genuinely cares about our community? So I think we have some work to do with respect to building our team because it's new and you don't have a lot of opportunities to bring in new members. But right now we do. And I'm real hopeful we're going to get that right. And I'm encouraged. I believe we are.
Right. And one of the things I think about is for some self-reflection just on myself and the district as a whole is what kinds of things or actions happened in 2025 to reinforce the type of culture we want to have for this district?
As far as our culture goes, and what have been some important events this past year, I think we've had a number of them, but I remember one that comes to mind. Our guys going the extra mile. They had a gentleman, happened to be a retired law enforcement officer, who had fallen ill while up on his roof. They had to help him down and had a medical emergency. Yeah. And they went the extra mile and finished the project that he was doing. And I just thought, man, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what being a public servant is all about. Is that in the rule book? Does it say, hey, you're going to finish people's roofs? No. But it's morally and ethically the right thing to do, and they did it when nobody was looking. So it shows some real character, and I recognize those members for that when they did it. And that gentleman really sent me a really heartfelt letter saying how impressed he was with our crews going above and beyond. That's the kind of culture I'm talking about. When I pop in on a fire station and they're not locked and loaded in the recliners, they're out on the drill ground training, pulling hose, throwing ladders. That's the culture I'm talking about, and I see more and more of that. A couple of weeks ago, I went around. I like to do some surprise, what I call a surprise drill, and I'll just call a fire station and say, hey, meet me at this location, come up on this tactical frequency. I'm going to give you an assignment. Your time starts as soon as I hear the brake set. And we ran through some different evolutions, and we just did that recently, and just the positive attitudes. It's hard sometimes 3 or 4 in the afternoon. You've been working all day. You're getting tired. it's hard to have a good attitude when the chief shows up and says, "Hey guys, we're going to drill,"
Right.
and we're going to get hot and sweaty here at the end of the day. But our crews do it. They performed exceptionally well. And the areas that need improvement, they own it. I don't get a bunch of excuses. They always thank me for the feedback. And sure enough, I see improvement. So in terms of our culture, I think we're definitely on the right track. I see a lot of real positive things, and I just want to continue that momentum, and I want to support that. As fire chief, I think that's really important. And certainly as a member here at Amador Fire, I want to keep supporting that change, that positive change.
Right. And you've given a handful of examples of operationally, and which is so important. And I see this as we have an operational side, and then we have our community and public trust side. And what was really neat in 2025 was to see both of those kind of in alignment with each other. We're not heavy on one side or laxing on the other. And of course, in my world, I'm proud to say that we've done over 300 public events for 2025. But
it's
to
outstanding.
have the crew's support in that and to have the fire chief present at those events is a really big deal. And we're seeing a shift with the public, with just us making ourselves available, this is something that we talked about in season 1, episode 1, was making yourselves available. And to be here a year later where I think we did that. We checked that box.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I want to chase a quick rabbit. It's one thing to have a vision and have all these great ideas, but if we don't follow through, if we don't carry that out, that's a whole nother thing. And I'm proud to say we've done that, and you have led the charge on that, Kayla. Make no mistake about it. You're at the tip of the spear with respect to community engagement. I hear people requesting you at meetings all the time, and I just cannot thank you enough. And that goes a long way with respect to our branding, culture, all that stuff. And we are seeing the difference. We're seeing the benefits of that. The community is starting to understand who Amador Fire is, what we provide, so on and so forth. And I think that is great. And I'm very proud of us. And you continue to raise the bar. And I know this year it's going to be risen even further, and we'll meet that challenge. And I want to touch on one more thing. I just want to give a shout out to our members, our career staff, our volunteers who consistently step up to the plate, our battalion chiefs, when we ask them to. And sometimes, unfortunately, things come up and there's only a few days to plan for it. And we have to step up and perform, and we do it. And our folks do it, and they always have a good attitude and make it a positive experience for everybody involved. And I cannot thank them enough. I know what that's like to be in the fire station, have a rough idea what you're going to do this shift. And I get a phone call from your BC. Hey guys, here's what we're doing. And I just appreciate everybody's willingness to step up, their flexibility and their belief in you and me and what we're trying to accomplish here. I think that's huge. So kudos to our members.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust, just to reinforce all of that, having trust between the community and our department is so critical. Like, we have to maintain that trust and show that trust. And I think that that's something that I love about being in this position, is that we can do that every single day. When last minute requests for meetings or months out, we're having people schedule meetings with us for December. And I just love that we can be approachable for that, because that's something that we really wanted to focus on.
Well, that's that accessibility you're always talking about. And I think that is very important. I could not agree more. And trust, if you can't trust your fire department, boy, who can you trust, right? The fire service remains one of the most trusted professions in the United States. And I want to believe that we're working hard to maintain that trust, and as we should.
Right. Well, looking forward to 2026, like you mentioned, we have firefighter interviews going on right now.
Yep.
And we have an academy starting in March. And we have a lot going on. So let's deep dive into that a little bit, of what the future holds.
Yeah, I'll start right there. I'm really excited with this round of hiring. I think we're in a good mind frame with respect to building our team and bringing in the right members. We have a real deep candidate pool. For us. We had over 40 applicants for our firefighter position, and that's a local record for Amador Fire. And I credit our branding and the work you're doing on social media for those results. And I'd like to believe that people want to be a part of this organization as well. So, one of the improvements we're making in the past are recruit firefighter academies. So for those of you in the business, I just want to share this. We require that you have your EMT and your firefighter one, your state fire marshal firefighter one. And then when we hire you, you go through our recruit firefighter academy that shows you how we operate here in this district. We run 2-person engine companies, for example, and the way we're not we're not getting outside of industry standards with our operations, but we just want to focus on some of the challenges we have here, whether it be working in the snow or fighting wildland fires, etc. So in that spirit of that, we added a week to our recruit academy, and now we have an 8-week academy that our members go through. And I think for an organization of our size, that's a pretty monumental task, and that just shows the commitment from our board in supporting us in our endeavor to be the best we can be. And I think that academy is where it all starts. That's where we build the culture, our team, so on and so forth. I'm excited about our cadre. We've got some real solid players that are stepping up to the plate. Captain Gorley will be our drill master this year. We have Engineer Tomlinson, Engineer Razzo, and Firefighter Keith that round out that cadre, that group that'll organize that academy and not only train those folks and beat them up a little with respect to physical fitness and all that, but also kind of help shepherd them through the process and indoctrinate them and help them to onboard and assimilate into this organization, which is really, really important part of this. So I'm very excited for our Recruit Academy. I like where we're headed with our town hall meetings. We were talking a lot about community outreach. I like what we've discussed about just continuing to educate the community, not only on the threats of wildland fires, but other disasters and other emergencies. We've kicked around the idea of maybe implementing a CERT team in the district and seeing what that might look like. Yeah, I think our training, we're off to a good start. We have a solid training plan every year. We do a training needs assessment district-wide where we poll all of our members and see what classes they need and what the reason is. Is it, career required or career development, that sort of thing. And then based on that feedback, we build our training calendar. And I credit our Battalion Chief, Rob Ebling. I think he's put together a solid training plan that's going to have some great classes. It'll have the usual, swiftwater rescue, that kind of stuff. But one of the things that's a little out of the ordinary for us this year is we're going to do some off-road vehicle driving with respect to operating some of these fire apparatus in off-road situations. And so I'm looking forward to that. And there's a whole host of other classes we're offering that I think are going to be cutting edge and very important to our ability to provide, the highest service possible.
Absolutely. And something I was just thinking about this while you were talking is it's very flattering to have not just members from the community come to us with ideas in terms of training or wanting to know what resources are available to them for evacuations or being prepared, but we're also having our own members come to us with ideas for their own training or within the district. And I see this shift happening with people getting excited or more, I don't want to say more on board, but just more willing to put themselves out there for advocating for specific types of training. They're getting excited. They're seeing, everything that this district is capable of doing. And I don't really have another word besides flattering. I'm seeing that internally and from the community side. And I just feel like we have a lot of people coming to us and we're ready for it. We're hungry for that info.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that's incumbent on me as fire chief. I need to make sure I'm creating an environment where our members, regardless of their status within the organization, that they feel safe coming forward, not only with ideas, but with criticism as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're all human. We're not going to get it right all the time. And I think, and I'm going to chase a little bit of a rabbit here, so I apologize, but to make good decisions, you have to have good intel. And the only way to get good intel is to listen to the field. They're the boots on the ground. And that's who I want to hear from. And I use that information to help guide where I take the district. As you know, the district is not about the fire chief. It's about the members and the community. And I think creating that environment where our members feel like, hey, it's okay for me to float ideas or share some criticism. I think that's really important. And in my mind, in terms of just, leadership 101, that's one of the fundamentals of being an effective leader is in fact creating that environment. And I agree. Right. It is flattering too.
Well, and you're making yourself available. And one of the things we've talked about this a handful of times, in addition with having these conversations with the battalion chiefs, is making the battalion chiefs and yourself available, but stopping into the stations. I think it is so important for you to be able to sit at a table in a station and have those conversations and create that environment and give them that platform to discuss exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel strongly about that. Understanding too, there's a balance.
Right.
The troops don't want the boss, in their business every day either. There's definitely a balance there.
Mm-hmm.
And there needs to be, and I think that's good. But yeah, I agree. That accessibility with our members is extremely important. And honestly, that's where I learn the most. And anyone out there, regardless of your years of service, the day you stop learning in this business is probably the day you should move on. And I continue to learn, I continue to grow. And a lot of that information and education really comes from those discussions at the kitchen table. The
Right.
old mighty firehouse kitchen table, that certainly is applicable here. And I do appreciate that. And honestly, I like that. I like rubbing elbows with the troops. My heart, I never dreamt of being a fire chief. That was never on my list of things to do. And like I think probably most fire chiefs, it just your career evolves and you end up in that spot. But what I signed up to do was ride on fire engines and go to fires, not sit in board meetings and all that. So
I think, going into or continuing into 2026, what do you think? What are some of the major things to be excited about for this?
I think there's a lot. We're real hopeful that we're going to be putting a new truck company in service. That'll be new to this district and new to the county. We have a few ladder trucks in the county, but they're not staffed full time. Our intention is to staff our truck full time, so that's exciting. Opening up, Station 121 with career staff, and then moving into Station 123, and we're going to attempt to staff that station as well. Those are some big monumental tasks. I think. We have some cooperative relationships out there that are just sort of, in their very early phases with different entities and such. And I think I'm excited to build those relationships and get them started on the right foot and build that interagency trust, et cetera. There's just a lot.
New fire station?
Yeah, new fire station being built in Pine Grove. I think we're going to finally see some dirt moving here, hopefully the end of next month. And that's super exciting. It's not only going to be a fire station, but that'll be our training center as well. We talked about our recruit academy. Well, Station 114 will also include our drill tower, our classroom. So we won't have to go around begging for a drill tower anymore. We'll have our very own drill tower. So I'm excited about that. There's a whole host of things. I think the day we stop looking forward and having things to look forward to is probably the day I need to get out of the way and let the next person come in. I'm a big believer in under promising and over delivering. So I always hold my cards a little close, but those are a few that we can definitely set our sights on because we will make those a reality. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I think there's so many, like in anything, there's so many lessons learned of the past years and how we want to set goals moving forward. And you and I've sat down and had many conversations about this, but I think that some significant events in 2025 have really shaped how we want to move forward in 2026 in terms of operationally, community, public trust, et cetera, and maintaining all of that.
Yeah. Are you looking for me to call out a specific event or?
Yeah, just talk about
I don't have
maintaining priorities.
Yeah, I think, our priorities are always our communities first. Our members are a real close second. I always say, public safety is number one. Firefighter safety is 1.1, and then everything else falls behind that. And training is a big part of that. I think we'll continue to evolve our standard operating guidelines. I know, sadly, we're currently working on some stuff with respect to tightening up our firefighter Mayday policies and procedures, our active shooter stuff, which breaks my heart that we even have to have that type of training, but it is a reality. And it's not to say we don't have current policy in place, but it's been around for a while now, and it's time to tighten that up. I really applaud the Sheriff's Department and our other local law enforcement partners for meeting those challenges head on and continuing. Every year we have a multi-agency training exercise. I think that's good. So some of those things, operationally speaking, continuing to build on our Swiftwater rescue team. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
And I want to tap in on something that you just talked about is maintaining our relationships with our other cooperators. And the active shooter drill training that we participated in was the first time that I actually have gone to one of those drills to participate. But it was really eye-opening, and I'm really grateful for the relationship that we have with the sheriff's office and them inviting us in and kind of taking a lead role in terms of the fire side of that, on what that looks like. God forbid that does happen.
Yeah, I agree. I credit Sergeant Moon, the Amador County Sheriff's Department, for approaching me and saying, "Hey, this is what we want to do. Can you kind of help bring our fire partners together?" I really appreciate him having the confidence in myself and our organization to do that. I look forward to building on that relationship. And yeah, I agree. It's sad that we have to even prep for those, school shootings and that sort of stuff should not even be in our vocabulary. But in today's world, it just is. And it sadly becomes more and more, I hate to say common, but that's the word. So we have to be prepared for that. Something else I wanted to touch on too, on a little brighter note with respect to our operational readiness. We are still challenged with the whole, lithium ion batteries and the EVs and all that stuff. And I know we've done a lot of research and there's a lot of training out there, and just trying to put that together and apply that here in our district, I think is a challenge for a lot of reasons. But I'm looking forward to continuing to seek a legitimate solution to that threat, if you will. And I think we'll find that answer in this coming year. But that is at the top of my list with respect to operational readiness. I don't think we're completely equipped or prepared for those types of fires at this point. And we're starting to see them. They're not occurring every day, certainly, but we're starting to see them now a little more frequently. We've had some structure fires now where there's a Tesla wall or whatever that's been, consumed by fire, or part of the incident, and just all the threats that come with that, not just in respect to the firefighter safety, but also the environment and the cleanup and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to really wrapping our arms around that. I don't want to say we're behind, but maybe we're a little behind in that area, and that's something we need to work a little harder towards in the coming year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things I would say that we're fairly good at, or aware of, I guess is a good word. We're aware of challenges, incidents like that and other ones, and being able to research those, seek what we need to do, prepare our own troops, or prepare with training what we need in different environments.
Yeah, I agree. Training is always at the forefront, and I think that's something as first responders, whether you're law enforcement, medical, or fire, I think it's important that you're always, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. And that is certainly one of our challenges and one of our big responsibilities. I wanted to go, if I could, I wanted to veer a little bit and go off script and just sort of highlight a few things that I think really stand out to me about this organization. And like many organizations, it really comes down to the people. And there's some stuff I just wanted to kind of call out, if you will. I want to recognize our command staff, battalion chiefs. I talked about Chief Ebling and his work with our training plan and, just keeping the district moving forward with respect to organized training, et cetera. I also want to give a shout out to Chief Jelinek, Justin Jelinek. He does a great job. He's kind of our numbers guy, if you will. He pulls a lot of stats for me, but he's also done some wonderful things. He set up some cooperative agreements with different educational facilities that generate a fair amount of revenue for our training program. And I just want to recognize him for that. That's not in his job title. That's him going above and beyond. And I appreciate that immensely. And then certainly Chief Watkins, our battalion chief on A shift. We always joke. I always joke, he's probably the best one out of all of us in terms of just being a really good human being, but he too goes the extra mile and helps out with so many things. Right now he's working on a grant. He's applying for a grant through Department of the Interior to help us fund maybe converting some of our apparatus from, a standard squad into a Type 6 engine, and doing that at very little cost. And Chief Watkins does a lot of hard work behind the scenes, seeking out those opportunities and doing the legwork. If you've ever applied for a grant, there's a ton of data that has to be mined and produced, and information and all those things. And I just appreciate him doing that. He's also kind of the catch-all for me. He's the person I call when I have a project or a meeting or something I can't get to. And he's always ready, willing, and able. And I just appreciate that. So I really, really appreciate our command staff. We run a pretty lean operation in terms of chief officers. We have 3 battalion chiefs and myself. And we staff 7 engines every day. This water tender behind us is staffed, all the volunteers, all the things we have going on. But we've made a commitment in this organization that we're going to spend our resources putting people on fire engines.
Mhm.
And that comes at a cost. And the cost is that our battalion chiefs have a heavy workload. And those guys meet the challenge. I'm very, very proud of them. Our office staff, they're not out front and center like you and I are, but they're behind the scenes keeping things going, whether it's our fire prevention officer, Ashley Anaya. You know, she came in 2 years ago, not knowing a whole lot about being a fire prevention officer, and today she does an outstanding job for us. She's been through tremendous amount of schooling, and she goes out and seeks experience with other organizations. She's just been elected into a leadership role in her Fire Prevention Officers Association. So I'm really proud of her, going the extra mile, stepping up to those challenges. I couldn't say enough. We got Nicole Cook, our administrative officer, does an amazing job. One of the few people I've ever had to tell, hey, quit working so hard. Let people help you. Give me some of your workload, because she just takes on the world and just does a tremendous job getting things done, making sure our members are paid on time, that our bills are paid, our budget's in order, and so on and so forth. Can't thank her enough. And then our newest addition in the office is Price Hefner, our finance technician. And not only is he a great numbers person and spreadsheet person and all that stuff, he's just a really good guy. And you talk about, building an effective team. We won the lottery there. What a great fit, just a great attitude. And on top of that, a very competent and efficient member of our team. So I'm just proud of those folks. I just want to give those folks a shout out. I'm very proud of you and the work you do. I can't say enough good about that. And I just I'd feel remiss if I didn't mention that on episode 1 here.
No, I think that that's all great information and it's so true, all of it. But one thing I want to touch on in addition to that is, which was new in 2025, is our fleet manager.
Yeah. I just said, I forgot somebody.
Which, for those listening and watching, we're actually sitting here at Station 115, where our fleet manager works out of. I think this is our new podcast location.
Yeah, you would think we're right here, and this gentleman's not far from me, that I would remember to thank him. But yeah, I can't say enough good about Chad, our fleet manager. Does an amazing job. He's pulling off a miracle as we speak. He's replacing a oil return line that's buried under a bunch of stuff in one of our Type 6 engines. And I cannot say enough good about the man's work ethic, his dedication, his fiscal responsibility. Right off the top, when we hired him, we cut our maintenance budget by $50,000. And that's a direct result of us bringing all that work in-house. A lot of times when we would get an invoice for a repair, a big portion of that invoice in terms of money was the labor cost. Mm-hmm. And by bringing that work in-house, we have limited that. I think so far we've only farmed out one job, and that was more of a time constraint because we had a couple of rigs broken down at the same time, and it was a relatively minor repair. It was disc brakes on a light vehicle. So yeah, Chad does an amazing job. Not only is he behind the scenes keeping the fleet going, he also operates this water tender, this 4,500 gallon water tender right behind us, and which is a godsend for us in the rural area. We don't have hydrants in many of our district. And just knowing that we've got that much water on the road guaranteed is a big, big deal. And Chad fills that need. Kind of a Swiss Army knife, if you will. It can fix just about anything, can operate just about anything. So yeah, another one of those members that isn't always out there on Front Street, but just doing an amazing job. I couldn't be more grateful. And what an incredible return on investment for the district.
Right. And I think the crews are seeing that. We're seeing a morale boost in that when their rig can get fixed right away, or parts can be the next day, and they're not, rotating to different equipment.
Out of service for 2 months and this, that, and the other. No, I agree. We went from a major service taking, a month to 6 weeks to now it's down for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And I would argue the quality's much better. I mean, he truly owns the equipment. I and rightfully so, and I wear it as a badge of honor, but he takes it serious when something breaks, and very proud of him for that. I always tell him, hey, this equipment's yours. It belongs to you. We're just borrowing it. So you tell us what you need us to do. Yeah. And I think he has for being here. He's been here just over a year now. I knew it was going to be good. I knew he was going to do a good job, or I wouldn't have hired him. But I had no idea he was going to do this good.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
very
And
thankful.
you've called out a handful of people here that are very key players, as you've given examples of in this, but there's so many more members that
Yeah.
we could spend a whole episode on calling out. But what I want to emphasize on that is the importance of us all having our team, not just you as the fire chief having your team, but we're all having each other's back. And that's what
Yeah.
is really neat right now is we're seeing this shift of teamwork growing, dedication growing, and just supporting one another. And the outcome of that is a well-oiled machine where everybody's, knows their role, knows what
Yeah.
lane to stay in.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Like I've always said, and you're spot on. I always feel bad when I start recognizing people because there's so many I could think. We could do a whole episode, but I really am. I'm very proud of the organization. I recognized when I first got here, I said, hey, all the pieces of the puzzle are here. We just got to start putting it together. And thanks to that team effort, you're exactly right. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the results of those pieces come together. And we still have a lot of work to do, and we'll have more challenges ahead. But you know what? With this team, I'll bring it on. I'm ready for whatever there's out there, and I'm confident we can get through it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, well said, Kayla. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, to wrap up our episode 1 of season 2 here, I just want to kind of tell all the ones that are viewing and listening with us is that we have a very exciting lineup of future episodes to maintain here for season 2. And we're excited to sit down with some of those people and educate you and all the listeners on what Amador Fire Protection District does.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Amador Fire C.A.N Report. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a neighbor, a friend, or someone who wants to get a better understanding of the work that we do. And remember, stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll see you next time.